The hospital corridors were always cold, filled with the smell of disinfectant and the low hum of machines keeping fragile lives intact. But that night, the silence seemed heavier than usual. Amelia, a young nurse with tired eyes and trembling hands, leaned against the wall for just a moment before returning to her shift. Her white uniform was worn thin from too many washes, her shoes had holes she tried to hide with tape, and though she wore a smile for her patients, the truth was that her life outside those hospital walls was far from easy. Amelia was the kind of nurse who never complained, who stayed late when others left, who held patients' hands when no one else came to visit. Yet when her long shifts ended, she walked home to a small apartment with barely enough furniture, wondering how she would keep her dreams alive in a world that had given her little to start with. Friends at the hospital often talked about weddings, parties, and celebrations, but Amelia quietly kept to herself. She had no family left after losing her parents at a young age, and money was always tight. She had been invited to the hospital's charity gala, an event where doctors, staff, and even patient families gathered once a year to raise funds for children's treatment. It was an evening of lights, laughter, and gowns that shimmered like stars. But Amelia, despite her warm heart and dedication, couldn't afford even the simplest dress to attend. She had silently decided she would skip the event, pretending to be too busy, because the thought of showing up without looking presentable made her heart ache. Before we go deeper into Amelia's story, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel, I Am Kindness Corner. Your support helps us bring more stories of love and humanity to the world. Now, let's return to Amelia's journey. One evening, while tending to a young girl named Lily in the pediatric ward, Amelia's kindness caught the attention of Lily's father, Mr. Carter. Lily had been battling a long illness, and her father rarely left her side. He watched how Amelia patiently read stories to his daughter, how she braided the little girl's hair when she was too weak to do it herself, and how she sang softly when Lily struggled to sleep. For Mr. Carter, Amelia was more than a nurse, she was a guardian angel, bringing warmth to a hospital room filled with fear and uncertainty. What Amelia didn't know was that Mr. Carter was a successful businessman, a man who had wealth but also a deep sense of gratitude. He had seen many nurses over the months of his daughter's treatment, but none with the quiet humility and tireless heart of Amelia. One night, as Lily finally drifted to sleep, Mr. Carter struck up a gentle conversation with Amelia. He asked her about her life, and though Amelia never complained, small details slipped out. How she worked extra shifts to cover rent, how she skipped meals sometimes to save money, how she hadn't been able to buy anything for herself in years. She quickly brushed it off, embarrassed, and excused herself to check on another patient. The gala was only a few days away, and inside, Amelia felt torn. She wanted so badly to be part of the celebration, to see her colleagues in a different light, to experience even one evening where she could feel like she belonged. But reality pressed down on her. Her bank account barely had enough for groceries, let alone a new dress. That night, she sat in her small apartment with a cup of tea that had long gone cold, staring at the invitation she had placed on her table. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Maybe next year." But fate had other plans. The next morning, when Amelia arrived at the hospital, she was greeted by Lily's bright smile. The little girl excitedly handed her a small envelope and said, "Daddy told me to give you this." Confused, Amelia opened it after her shift ended. Inside was a simple note in elegant handwriting, "Meet me tomorrow afternoon in the hospital garden. I'd like to ask you something important. Mr. Carter." Her heart raced with nervousness. She wondered if she had done something wrong, if perhaps she had crossed some professional line without realizing it. The next day, with shaky hands, she stepped into the garden where sunlight filtered gently through the leaves. Mr. Carter was waiting there, holding a small box wrapped in delicate paper. With a kind smile, he said, "Amelia, I've seen how much love and care you give my daughter. You've been there in ways I could never repay. I know the gala is coming, and I also know you weren't planning to attend." Amelia lowered her head, ashamed that her struggles had become so visible. But before she could speak, Mr. Carter continued, "I want to ask you something. Will you be my guest at the gala?" For a moment, time seemed to stop. Amelia blinked in disbelief. No one had ever asked her something like that before. Mr. Carter gently opened the box, revealing a stunning, elegant evening dress in a soft shade of blue, simple, yet beautiful, the kind that would make anyone feel special. Amelia gasped, tears welling in her eyes, and tried to refuse, saying she couldn't accept such a gift. But Mr. Carter reassured her, saying it was not charity but gratitude, a way of thanking her for all the nights she had spent caring for his daughter when hope seemed far away. The night of the gala arrived, and when Amelia walked into the grand hall wearing the dress, all eyes turned toward her. She looked radiant, not just because of the gown, but because for the first time in years, she felt seen, valued, and worthy. Her colleagues, who had only ever seen her in scrubs, were stunned by the transformation. Even Lily, attending with her father, clapped her hands with joy and whispered, "You look like a princess, Nurse Amelia." The evening was magical. Amelia laughed, danced, and for once, didn't worry about bills or loneliness. But what touched her most was when Mr. Carter stood on stage to give a speech about the hospital and its staff. With emotion in his voice, he shared how a nurse's compassion had carried his family through the hardest time of their lives. He looked at Amelia directly and said, "Sometimes heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they wear scrubs. Tonight, I want to honor one such hero." The audience erupted in applause as Amelia, with tears streaming down her face, stood in disbelief. That moment didn't just change Amelia's night, it changed her life. She realized that kindness, though often unnoticed, always leaves an impact. She returned to her work with even more passion, but now with a renewed sense of dignity. And though she never sought recognition, she carried in her heart the memory of the night someone believed in her enough to remind her she deserved more than struggle. As weeks turned into months, Amelia's bond with Lily and Mr. Carter grew. While life remained full of challenges, she no longer felt invisible. The kindness she had once given so freely had come back to her in ways she could never have imagined. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to I Am Kindness Corner. Your small action can help spread powerful reminders of hope, compassion, and humanity to others who may need them right now. And before we end, I have a special request for you. Comment below with the words, "Kindness lives on," if you believe that even the smallest acts of compassion can change someone's world forever. Amelia's story is not just about a nurse or a dress. It is about every unseen hero who quietly gives their best, even when no one notices. It is about how gratitude can heal, how kindness can transform, and how sometimes, when we least expect it, life surprises us with moments that remind us we are never truly alone.